Like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, and on with the video. SHTF Garden coming at you. Real quick video. Just want to go over the differences between hybrids, GMOs, and heirlooms open pollinated, and why I believe you should include some hybrids. I'm hoping to make the case for more people to put hybrids in their preps, because all too often people, when the subject comes up, oh, you can't save seeds, and these problems, you shouldn't have hybrids, and all this stuff. So let's go into it. First off, what's an heirloom? Heirlooms, there's two real things need to be said about heirlooms. First, and the most important, is they're open pollinated. So open pollinated breed true. So these seeds breed true, and what that means is that you grow this, you save the seeds from it, you plant the seeds from it, you get the same thing you grew the first time. So in this particular case, say a tomato. You have your tomato, you grow it, you save the seeds, you get the same type of tomato. It's not a different color tomato or some other, something weird. Same thing. So that's obviously a huge advantage, and that's what you are going to want in a really long-term grid down situation where we go back to the Stone Age thanks to some kind of asteroid or whatever, because 10 years from now, if you plant broccoli, you plant tomatoes, you need to make sure you're going to get broccoli, you need to make sure you can get tomatoes of the same type that you planted. And of course, that being the main advantage for heirlooms. What's a GMO? GMO is in a lab. You're not going to go to the store and buy these. These are made in a lab for commercial products. Example of this would be corn. So you go and you buy something out of a box. It's got corn meal in it. That corn meal was grown on a field that was sprayed by Roundup, glyphosate, or however you pronounce it. And they genetically engineer that corn to be resistant to that herbicide, so that they can drive the tractor over it, spray the field, and when the field is sprayed, it will kill all the grass, and it will kill all the weeds and kill all the junk, but the corn will be genetically resistant to it, so the corn grows. That's genetically modified. I'm not advocating for that in your garden, and you probably have a hard time getting it in your garden, and because it's made for commercial stuff. They're not doing that for your home gardener. You're not going to go to Walmart and buy seeds that are genetically modified. All right, so hybrid seeds. So what is it that makes a hybrid seed a hybrid seed? Hybrid seeds, they're taking the parent plants and they're growing like in a greenhouse or something, in an isolated environment, so they can get a pure seed that's not affected by any other germ lines, and then taking those germ lines and breeding them together through selective breeding to get the results they want. So you end up with the F1 types and the OP types. So let's go into that. OP types we discussed as open pollinated. That's just, bee or whatever is out there flying around is pollinating your stuff. The F1 types, the F means daughter. So the F1 types is the first generation daughter plant of the original parents. So let's go into that. The other part of the heirloom seeds, because this would be important to understand the F1 types and so on, is it means the seeds have been bred for 50 years or more. So an example of that is the mortgage lifter. It used to be a hybrid tomato back in like the 30s or whenever it came out, a long time ago. And they hybridized it, and they kept breeding it and breeding it and breeding it and breeding it generation to generation to generation. Eventually it became stable and open pollinated. So something that has been around stable for 50 or more years, it's considered heirloom, because it's open pollinated for 50 years or more. So tomorrow's open pollinateds are today's hybrids. That's another reason why I think there's nothing wrong with having some hybrids in there in your garden, because at some point in time they may become, not in your garden, they won't become heirloom, but some point in time in the future some of these could become that. So let's go back to the F1s. So if you have an F1 seed, that is a direct descendant of the two parent plants. That's not 50 generations in like the heirloom, which is why I had to throw that one in there. So you're saving seeds from this generation, that one, and you're getting F1 hybrid, which is first generation. Let's look at this right here. This might make more sense. So you got plant 1, plant 2. These are in greenhouses. These are not being exposed to any other genetics. They're breeding them together. They're getting the F1. This is the seed packet you go to and buy. You want to buy whatever version of of hybrid plant you want, you're buying this. Now, if you breed if this is self-pollinated or breeds with another F1, you end up with an F2 generation, F3 generation, and so on. Each generation is further away from the original plants that it created it, and so it's going to end up with less of these plants, less of the F1 types. So you're buying your F1 hybrid type if you're buying an F1 hybrid, and you're getting all the stuff that you want. You're getting the higher yield, the disease resistance, whatever it is that you bought it for. And if you breed those and save those seeds, then you're getting an F2, which resembles some of the characteristics of F1, but it's going to also resemble some parent plants. So this one right here may go off in this direction, it may go off in this direction, but it's not going to be a nice blend between the two. It's going to favor one parent or the other, and so you're going to put less of the traits that you wanted. F3 is not really going to, and so on, is not going to resemble as much of these. It's too far removed. So it's average, considered average quality, but your best at this point, you're more or less just going back to open pollinated. And that's another reason why I don't think it's a bad thing. I think people should have hybrid seeds in their stuff, because even if you're saving seeds from your hybrid seeds and it just ends up becoming more like your old heirloom that you would have bought anyway, you're still getting something edible. You're still getting whatever type of food it was. If it's a tomato, it's a tomato. If it's a squash, it's a squash. It may just be different. It may not have all the traits that you originally bought the original seed packet for, but you're still getting something. You're still getting an edible vegetable. And so it's not like it's going to be all sterile seeds and you're not going to get anything out of it. It's a misnomer. There may be some cases where that's the case, but for the most part, you're still going to get something, and it may not have all the benefits that you originally bought it for. All right, so let's take a look at an example. This butterbush, I'm not advocating for it. It's something I'm buying and trying out for the first time this year. Well, actually, I've already bought it. I don't think I got it from Territorial Seed, though. I think I got it from somewhere else. But regardless of where you get the seeds from, I'm just using this as an example because it's an F1 hybrid. So there's no 50 years of growth in here. There's a parent seed, another parent seed, plant, and these are being bred, and this is the very first generation. And why would I want this? Why am I getting this? Because of this. See, this is a butternut squash. Butternut squash keep really, really long time. So you can they're properly stored. They can last 6 months, a year, between 6 months and a year. So what I'm basically planning for next winter's food, if things continue to go the way they are now with shortages and high prices, that I'm planning my garden to be able to have some portion of it saved for next winter. One of my strategies for that is this plant here, because butternut squash keeps really well, and so I want to include it in my garden. I do every year anyways, the regular open pollinated ones, and the vines are long and huge and take up a lot of space. So I'm hoping that I can get more production by shrinking the footprint down and putting more plants in. So that is the result I want. That's why I'm buying these seeds. They're a bit pricey, but that's why I'm buying them. This is an F1. So let's look at some of the pros and cons. Or we just covered some of the ones with that example. Breeding it for specific traits. In the case of that trait that I want the more compact plant. You can get some that are better for resistance to pests or disease. There's a whole disease packages. A lot of times they're more productive than your regular heirloom. This particular case, smaller footprint. Now, what's the cons? Why wouldn't you just buy all hybrid seeds? Well, the cons, for one of them, they cost a lot more. As you saw from that last one, that one pack of seeds was $6, and it probably only has like 20 seeds in it. Saving seeds won't necessarily give you the same result. So if you save the seeds from that butterbush, after a couple of generations of saving the seeds, or maybe even one generation of saving the seeds, it's going to just become a normal squash and start vining out again, most likely. I mean, it could stay compact, but there's no guarantee that it will. So that's not sustainable for really long-term SHTF. So what do I mean by that? All right, let's say that pack comes with 20 seeds. The pack I bought says on there 20 seeds. I haven't opened it up, although generally they throw a couple extras in there just in case one doesn't germinate or a couple don't germinate. But let's just say, for argument's sake, there's 20 seeds in there. And I'm not going to plant 20 of those because I have a backyard garden. I don't have enough space to plant all kinds of giant squash plants or even smaller squash plants. So I may plant 5 out of that, which is kind of my goal, 4 or 5 of those. I'm also going to plant a couple of the regular ones, regular OP ones. So I'm going to not use the entire pack. So that if were to be SHTF again next year, which I expect it to be, or the following year, 2024, unless something happens to my seed packet, I'm still going to have three-quarters of the seeds I bought. And the seeds are still going to be good. So they're going to be good 2, 3 years, 4 years maybe. I can use some of those same seeds that I'm buying this year. So they're sustainable for a decently long term of SHTF. I won't say really long term. I threw that in there in case like asteroid comes and brings us back to the Dark Age. I'm not going to be able to have generations live off of compact better butternut squash because of it's just not going to stay stable. You'll end up with some other squash variety will eventually come out of those seeds if you save them over and over again, most likely. But that's okay, because between now and 2 or 3 years from now, whenever those seeds are all used up, or even my F1 or F2 generations are all used up, I'm sure between then I can buy some more if I want them. Probably will buy some more next year. But even if I can't, those are going to last me a while. So I think that because of that, you should have a basic garden seed collection that contains mostly heirlooms. So you get the same type of stuff every time. But in cases where you want to specialize on something like I wanted this, I also have something similar for spaghetti squash because I like spaghetti squash, and so I found a bush variety that's hybrid spaghetti squash. I also found I have some other hybrid seeds in my seed collection. 90% of my seeds is heirloom, but I do have some hybrids that I want for specific reasons. Maybe it's more productive, maybe it's a smaller footprint, maybe it's just to try some out because it's a different variety and I like to collect all kinds of seeds. So my recommendation, don't neglect the hybrid seeds. Even save some seeds from those and try them out, see what you get. You might get something fun and interesting. But anyways, that's SHTF Garden out for now, and hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it'll encourage you to keep some hybrid seeds and maybe make some more sense between the different definitions of hybrid versus GMO versus open pollinated heirloom. All right, have a good night, and if you're seeing this before Christmas, have a Merry Christmas too. SHTF Garden out.